Kråkan, also known as Chorus Cornix, and welcome to Class Movie Ramos, where I'll talk about old movies that I found in my closet while cleaning. This week's movie is The Lion King from 2019. It's about 1 hour and 53 minutes long. And the movie starts with the sun rising and the introduction of the new king-to-be, Simba. He's been held up by this monkey called Rafiki in front of all the animals at Pride Rock. And then sometime later, Sasu is about... He actually interrupts Mufasa's brother Scar while he's trying to get some food. And that ends up in Scar almost eating Sasu, but Mufasa, the brother, intervenes. And the next day, Mufasa shows Simba the kingdom all over and teaches him about hunting. And then there's some conflicting things happening, and Simba is told to go home. And on the way home, Simba bumps into Scar, which tells him about the elephant graveyard, and he tricks him into going there by using, I guess, reverse psychology. So what happens is that Simba and Nala is supposed to go to the elephant graveyard, but they lie and basically tells their moms, I should say, that they're going to the waterhole or whatever. So they manage to somehow make the whole thing into a singing number, and also Sasu loses sight of them. So they end up at the graveyard and they get confronted by the hyenas that live there. And in a short while, they get attacked by the hyenas, and there's like a running sequence, and Mufasa managed to stop them and takes them back to safety. And while Nala is the female lioness, Nala is taken to her mom. Mufasa talks to Simba about a couple of things and teach him, about his father and so on. It's kind of a touchy little moment, and I think James Earl Jones does a great job about explaining the whole thing. And even later, Scar goes down to the hyenas because it was his plan all along to use the hyenas to get power. So that whole confrontation turns into a song as well, where he sings about killing Mufasa and basically rallying the hyenas behind him to do his dirty work. So sometime later, Scar takes Simba down to the gorge, which is just like this big ravine, and he leaves him there. And basically, the hyenas kind of chase down the buffaloes. I think they're called some kind of herd animals. And Simba is supposed to run for his life, and he clings onto not a rock, but like a log or something. And Mufasa hears about this, and he goes to save his son, and that leads up to Scar actually killing off Mufasa while he is hanging on for dear life for a cliff. So he just gets pushed down into the herd and he dies. And somehow Scar managed to manipulate little Simba into believing that it's all his fault that this ever happened, going to the gorge and everything. So he basically tells Simba to just run away and never come back, because he can't go back once he killed the king. And while this is happening, Scar also sends the hyenas after him, but Simba managed to survive that ordeal as well. So Simba gets saved by Timon and Pumbaa, this warthog and this rodent creature. And they teach him about Hakuna Matata, which means like no worries. And he learns to eat bugs instead of meat, because he lived with like peaceful animals at this point. So he grows up and he becomes this chill lion dude. And back at Pride Rock, things are not going as well. And Nala sneaks out, now that grown adult, just as Simba, and to find help. She sneaks out to find help, and she managed to find... She actually hunts down Pumbaa, and Simba somehow stops her, and that leads to them actually recognize one another and their friends. And there's this singing number which is like this famous love song. And the thing about Simba's new lifestyle, he doesn't want to be king, and he doesn't want to have this responsibility. He's just run away from it, and Nala is about to return to the Pride Rock to resolve things. So somehow a strand of, and this is kind of stupid, but a strand of Simba's fur managed to reach all the way throughout the desert and to the Pride Rock to Rafiki's little tree house, and he managed to realize that, Simba is actually alive. So he goes back to this jungle where Simba is, and there's like a chase scene, and somehow Simba has a revelation, sees his father's face in the cloud, and hears him talk about taking responsibility and become king and save the day. So that's what he does. He runs back to Pride Rock, and he on the way he meets up with Nala, and Timon and Pumbaa join as well. So there's a big fight scene, and everybody fights the hyenas, and Simba managed to fight Scar, and in the end he falls off a cliff or something, and he talks bad about the hyenas while doing so, and so the hyenas kind of pick him up, because there was this one line where a hyena's belly is never full, and they just kill Scar outright. And then it starts to rain, and the kingdom is about to be rebuilt again, and then Simba and Nala has a child of their own, and that's the circle of life, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. So what do I think about this movie, Lion King from 2019? It's a well-animated movie. I'm not quite sure, but I think all the animals are CG animated and they look really good. But the main thing about this movie is that it doesn't really need to exist, and here's why. The first animated movie, like with pencil-drawn movie, it more or less is this movie is more or less a retelling of that page by page. And it's not really necessary. The original was awesome. I remember watching it when I was a kid, and looking back at this, I'm kind of like, well, it's nice to see how they managed to make fur. Everything looks good and it's photorealistic, but it's not a movie that actually needs to exist, because everything is more or less a photocopy of the other thing. But it's a good movie. So I don't know. Maybe if you watch like the first movie, the animated one, and then you watch this right after, so you could compare like the thing. But yeah, if it's on TV, sure, watch it. It's not a bad movie by any means, but it doesn't need to exist. So anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and take care.